So there was a survey study, I'm not sure what they called it, a few years ago, where thousands of people were asked what makes a life worth living. And you can imagine a lot of answers. Oh, more vacations, more money, more this, more that. And they stopped the survey with that. And then a few years later, they came back to generally the same population. It was not they didn't hit everybody apparently, of course, but they many of the same people and a few new ones. They said, okay, well, let's go a little deeper. And they asked questions that caused the people to look beyond these material things that they had listed before. And they came back as, oh, well, money will give me the freedom to do this. So they were after freedom. And the vacation would give them the peace that that they don't have so they were looking for peace. So they narrowed it all down. And they got to these emotional levels instead of the material levels. When they did it again and came back the third time, it went to a whole different place, and it was actually surprising for many of the people who were conducting the survey, because the main answer came back as relationship. Everything that we do, well, first of all, everything we do, everybody we meet, everything that we have, we're in relationship with. Can't avoid it. We can't not be in relationship with everything. The air that we breathe, we're in relationship with. The people around us, we're in relationship with. And obviously, one of the greatest answers of all times comes when somebody is lying on their deathbed and you ask them, what was the most important thing in your life? It wasn't work. It wasn't the riches that they gained. It was the relationships they had. Somebody once said, you've never heard anybody say, I wish I worked more. But they do say, I wish I would have spent more time in my relationships. So this all came about, I was reading through some articles, and there was an article about the art of being. 100 Ways to Practice Purpose in Your Life was the title. And there was one segment that really stood out. It said, for most of us, when we clearly see our priorities, what is most important is our relationships and how conscious each is. First, what is the quality of the relationship we are choosing to have with God? Then, how about the quality of the relationships we are having with family and friends? It's amazing how we push what is really most important aside when our priorities are not crystal clear. The one thing that stood out to me, and that many of things stood out to me, obviously we wouldn't be talking about this today, but one line in there was, what is the quality of the relationship you are choosing to have with God? That really stood out to me, because we choose the quality of it. It's there. We cannot avoid having a relationship with God. Even the most devout atheist has a relationship with God. They define theirs differently than we do. But it's there. Can't help but have it. But we get to choose the quality. We get to choose the value we place upon it. And the same is true for every other relationship we have as well. That's why for some people money was the most important thing that they answered when asked the questions in that survey. They value that money. But when they broke it down, they found out, oh, it's not really money, it's what money allows me to do. That allows me to do this over here. And the great thing about this, when you start digging deeper and you start realizing this, you find that yes, money will allow you to do this and this and this and this and this. But when you realize that it's this and this and this, this right here is the most important, there's probably other ways to get there than focusing on money. And do not hear me say money's a bad thing. I wish I had loads of it. But it's the things that are most important that we need to discover and that we need to put our priority, our focus, our intention, our awareness on. We can get very clear on our priorities and our values when we decide to do this deeper search within. Until we do that, we end up taking for granted those things that are most important. A friend of mine has a value workshop, and it helps you identify the values in your life. And what is most surprising about that is what shows up through this process as my true values are not necessarily what I want to be my true values. The easiest way to look at this is, what do you spend the most time doing? What you put the most time on, what you spend the most time on, is what you have as your highest value. Is that what's most important in your life? If not, probably need to do a little adjusting. But what we value the most is what we spend the most time on. So look at that. Do not judge. Because when I first did this thing, I was, woo, I can't believe that I have that as my highest value. No way. But it does happen. So start there and then go into a deeper inquiry. What does this do? What does this get me? And then you'll get to what you value the most, what your highest priorities really are. And then you can adjust and you can make those adjustments that allow you to spend more time and more quality and more attention on what's most important. As I said, those studies or surveys indicated that relationships were the most important thing to just about everyone. I'm sure there were some people that balked at some of the questions and said, nah, can't be relationships. But if they dig a little bit more, they'll probably find it is. We are created, we're hardwired for a relationship. Imagine for a moment that you isolate and you have no one in your life. You better be in a cave somewhere, because other than that, you're going to run into somebody. And if you run into somebody, whether it be a friend, family, co-worker, stranger on the street, you're in a relationship. And this is just with people. As I said earlier, we're in a relationship with our breath. So just try to not have a relationship. We're hardwired for a relationship. We tend to take things for granted in our relationships. This is where that value thing comes in. We place our value, we spend our time, we spend our focus on work. And one of the reasons we do that is because this relationship with my wife is so good that I just take for granted it's going to be there all the time. So I'm going to put my focus over here. This is where I'm going to work. Because if I can get my work right, and if I can get my finances right, and if I can get my car right, and if I can get my home right, my relationship will be better. We think that this material stuff will make things better. And if I get all of that right and get my relationship with my wife right, then I'll have time to get my relationship with God right. Every one of us have done it to some extent. And it's not until we open awareness and take steps that we realize that that whole process is backwards. We must get our relationship with God right. And guess what? It's not that we're doing anything wrong, it's that we are just seeing things other than truth. God within us. God, wisdom, all wise, all knowing. God all powerful. God everywhere present. You see, everything that we think that we are having a relationship with, we are just seeing differently. It's still a relationship with God. It's still a relationship with the omnipresent. But we're seeing it as something that will get us to a better relationship with God. So we've got it out of whack. We have given power. We've taken power from over here from God and moved it to this thing. We're giving that thing power to make us okay. When the only thing we need to be okay is God within and everywhere present. So it's not that we have to do all of this stuff to get right with God. It's that we've got to stop doing stuff. We've got to stop being so busy and just breathe. Just realize. Just open awareness. That's pretty cool. We have to become conscious of our relationships. Relationship with God, a relationship with anybody, anything. We have to become conscious of it. When we become conscious of it, we know where it is on our list of priorities. And we know where to put it if it's in the wrong place. But conscious relationship tells us what this relationship means. Obviously, like I said earlier, we're hardwired to be in relationships. We're in relationships with loved ones, friends, work associates, clerk at the store, stranger on the street, the air we breathe, the cat that shows up every 2 weeks outside. We're in relationship with everything. But when we're conscious of that relationship, we can start seeing the importance of that relationship. We can start seeing the divinity in that relationship. We can start seeing that stranger on the street not as somebody that we need, we better cross the street. We can see it as somebody we can come up and treat as an old friend. A communication tool that I teach in some of my team development programs is Hello Old Friend. Somebody was real worried in a class about, I got 60 people working for me, and then we've got all these other people here. I can't remember everybody's name, and I feel so bad about it. And just treat them like an old friend. You don't have to call a name. See the heart of that person. See the goodness of that person. I almost played that song that we like from that look for the good. I almost played that again, even though we've heard it like 3 or 4 weeks in a row, because of this point. Look for the good. Because if you're looking for the good, that's what they're going to give you. That's what they are going to express to you. We cannot go out there and look for the bad and hope to see the good. That is throughout life. What we look for is what we experience. When we awaken to the fact that we need each other, we realize that in that need, in that relationship, we are doing what we have come here to do, which at the soul level is to give form and expression to the life that is God. If we are all individual expressions of God, God expressing through me, God expressing through you, and we're in relationship, what does that do to that expression? It allows it to show more of its infinite possibilities, reality, truth. Because I can only express so much through me. But in this relationship, I can open up to a whole new dynamic and expression. With all that's going on in this world, with us tending to see the bad instead of the good, and it's easy to go there. I'm not judging anybody for doing it. It's easy to go there. Yesterday, we were at a festival, and it was one of the, I was actually shocked. There was almost an even split between people who had something on their shirt, sayings on their shirt about love, about goodness, about kindness, and people who had statements of division, of warning for the bad. And it was shocking to me that many people are saying, look out, because it's bad out there. If you don't look out, you're going to get it. If you watch TV, you get that message every time a political ad comes on, because I have heard two. Out of all of these commercials, I have heard two that said, my candidate will do this. Every other one had been fear-motivated campaigns about, if you vote that person in, this is going to happen. If you vote that person in, this is going to happen. This is bad. It's all over the place. So it's easy to go there. I get it. It's easy to go to the bad. And it's easy to start distancing ourselves. We start becoming more selective of who we allow into our lives and claim that that's the only people we're going to have a relationship with. We see hate and anger, meanness and harm. It's just crazy. So it causes us to shrink our comfort level. We easily become, it's all about me first. I got to take care of me. And it even gets to the point, well, I got to get them before they get me. And so you walk out of a relationship, or you harm the relationship, or you harm the other person. It's easy to go there. We can stop this trend of isolation and distrust by becoming emissaries of God. We are expressions of God. Anytime we fall into that other stuff, we are seeing ourselves as separate from God. And that is absolutely impossible. We have to remind ourselves of what we are. That's the biggest thing about living a life, or having a life worth living, is remembering who we are and why we're here. We can radiate into the world the truth of our oneness. And that truth of oneness is not just with God, it's with everybody, everything. So we can't claim to be one with God and then say, oh, well, you're not a part of this, so go away. If God is omnipresent, then we are in relationship. We are one with everything. And we must remind ourselves of that if we're going to find this peace that we're looking for, if we're going to find love and goodness and kindness. We must go there. With the ever-present awareness that God is all there is, our relationships become the living laboratories in which we mindfully explore true oneness in all. I loved that statement. That came from the article. I love that statement because to me that says, ooh, I can look at this relationship and all relationships as a journey. It's an exploration. What more expression of God can come from this? And if I don't have the answer, I can just allow more expression to come. Now, with all this talk about relationships, I do want to caution you, as you're looking at relationships, do not fall into that illusion of duality. There is no such thing. It's not two different people. It's two individual expressions of God. They're still God, still divine, still one. But in the relationship, they come together. It's not two different people. We're not separate. We are all one. It's just that this expression is having a relationship with that expression. And this expression and that expression both are God. Expressing. It is through relationship, this true divine relationship, that we create harmony, cooperation, balance, reverence, generosity, respect, peace, and compassion. Now, if those words are not on your list of things that you want, I'll write them out for you and I'll hand it to you. These are beautiful things. Imagine your life. Imagine your life experience when it's harmonious, when it's cooperating, in balance, reverent, generous, respectful, peaceful, and compassionate. Just breathe that in for a moment. With these beautiful traits, we commingle. I like that word. We commingle. We create what is most important in life, and that is relationship. We create an opportunity for the divine to be expressed more fully. Conscious relationships bring us back into alignment with our priorities and our values. So this isn't to say give up all your work and all your money and everything, all this good stuff that you listed the first time so that you can have this beautiful relationship. It's allow this beautiful relationship with God and everyone else to make this more worthwhile. Relationships assist us, as we've said before, in knowing why we're here in the first place. And that is to be living vessels through which the divine expresses. So I wanted to end today with a prayer, and this prayer was from Mary Ann Williamson. And it's talking about surrendering our relationships. So I'm going to read this, and I hope it means to you as much as it means to me. Holy Spirit, please guide my perception of someone toward whom I hold a grievance, someone who I feel is not acting the way I think they should, someone who is not playing the part my ego believes they should play. Let me recognize that the problem with this relationship does not stem from the outside of me. It is not who this person is or how they are acting. The real problem is that I am not allowing them to be whoever they are and to act however they need to act. Help me understand that God is not asking me to police the universe. God is not asking me to shake my finger at people and tell them how to behave. Instead, God is asking me to be an instrument of His unconditional love, in the presence of which miracles occur naturally and all beings heal. I surrender to God the relationship that frustrates me and the feelings I have about them. I surrender where I feel hurt. I surrender those times where I can't help but judge, when I can't help but complain, when I can't help but be bitter, when I can't help but be angry, when I can't help but feel abandoned or even betrayed or transgressed against. I know, dear God, that my feelings are not hurting the other person. They're only hurting me. I surrender these relationships to God. I pray that He will lift them to divine right order. I pray that I will be lifted above and beyond the confines and limitations of the past, the separations, the walls that divide us. May a great wave of forgiveness come upon us both. May I see only the innocence in my brother, and may my brother see only the innocence in me. Allow the relationship to begin again, guided by a path of light that will lead us both from the darkness. Holy Spirit, guide us so we can be free to be exactly what God would have us to be, and so our relationship might take the form that serves best the Spirit that has brought us together. May the relationship thus be made holy, and so it is. Amen.